Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about ambient loop production, specifically in a hardware setup, and specifically using the Aeros Loop Studio pedal, which is awesome. I've been having a lot of fun with it. So I have a Behringer MonoPoly synthesizer in front of me. It is an analog recreation of an 80s classic, which also means it's very limited. It doesn't have any effects or anything like that, or effects in the traditional terms like reverb, delay, or anything like that. It does have modulation effects, hence the effects on-off, but you just get a dry signal essentially. So because we're talking about ambient music, you definitely want some dreamy effects being applied to things. And I do have the Strymon Trinity here, the Timeline, Mobius, and Big Sky. And the Monopoly is being fed directly into the Timeline, which is then going into the Mobius, which is a modulation type of chorus type of pedal, which is then being fed into the Big Sky, which is obviously the reverberator, the lush verb tone. And then after all that, it's being fed into the Aeros Loop Studio. And then finally, after the Loop Studio, it's being fed into the microcosm for an additional layer of effect paint that can be applied to it. Obviously, all this can be done in software, no doubt about it. Like, this doesn't have to be a hardware-based setup, but it's obviously fun to be able to twist knobs and have everything in front of you to see what's happening on a table as opposed to just a screen that's right in front of you. So by no means am I saying you have to do it via hardware. You can have just a couple pieces that are hardware and then feed the rest of it into a computer. But it's fun doing it via hardware. It's also a lot more expensive as well. So I'm aware of that. So with the Loop Studio, there is a few things about it that make it very ideal for this situation. Number one, you could do stereo. So you have stereo in, stereo out. So it's automatically a stereo looper. Number two is the recording limit. If you're just doing monophonic sounds, you can have up to 20 minutes of recording. Since I'm doing stereo, because of reverb effects, I want that spatial sound, I have a recording limit of 10 minutes, and that can be split across 6 different tracks. And all those are stereo as well. So I can have 6 stereo tracks with a total of 10 minutes with all of them added up together. So, each one could be 2 minutes long, or I could have one 5-minute long track with a couple 30-second tracks. I actually haven't hit the limit when doing ambient music, so I think there's plenty of time for recording in here. I also haven't even used all 6 tracks before, because I find once I've gotten like 2 or 3 bass loops that are, modulating, I feel like that's enough to get the effect or vibe that I want. There's another thing as well. You can set it to free time or free form, which let's do that right now. Yeah, so when editing the song, you can choose to, so you have a couple options. You could do 2 tracks exclusively, or you can do 6 tracks, which is, it's nice to have that option. But then you can sync the tracks to length, which actually we're going to turn that off. We're not going to sync it to length at all. And quantize to a measure, and we're going to turn off the measures as well. So now this should technically be a free form track. So if I hit record, like, it's just flapping in the wind. Now I'm going to hit overdub. So one thing that happened right there that's very important is it is set up to record, overdub, play. Most loopers, when you first get them, they're set up to record, play, and then overdub if you want. Now, because we're recording ambient loops, and I want to bake in the reverb tails in here, you have to put in overdub after recording. Otherwise, you're going to get like, a chop of the sound, and then you have to hit overdub really fast to then capture that overdub. So very important to set that up as well. And in the Aeros Loop Studio, it's pretty easy. Let's not save the song. You go settings. By the way, there's a ton of options in the in Loop Studio. It's really great. And also the auxiliary routing, like you can route a click out of the auxiliary to hear if you're doing something rhythmic specifically, which is really nice. Track button action. Record, play, overdub, or record, overdub, play. That's what you want. You want to make sure that is on when making ambient tracks in this type of setup. So some ideas and theory behind how to craft some ambient tracks. One thing that I find is that you don't want to get too complex on the harmonic content. So, you know, if you're doing a regular track with synced up to measures and stuff, you could be like, you could try to do that, but you're gonna find you're gonna have some rhythmic discrepancy when you try to overdub and play other tracks on top of it. So I find it's best to kind of keep it relatively simple when it comes to harmony, and maybe even do something that's like just lay down a single chord, like C minor right here, give it some time to breathe, and then switch to another chord, like E flat major. Give it some time to breathe, and either replay it further or stop the loop right there and let it overdub and capture those tails. So let's do that again just to show the concept behind this. So again, I'm going to hit record. I'm going to lay down some bass functional sound to work with, to then build stuff on top of. And you'll notice when I hit the overdub, I let the reverb tail blend into the beginning of the loop to create these like blended loops that don't feel like they have a start stop. Also, sound wise, let's maybe adjust this a skosh. And let's go like basically triangle on these. So what does this sound like? Yeah, maybe take this down so we can control the cutoff better. Okay, so I'm gonna hit record. I'm gonna lay down a C minor. Give it some time. Make it breathe. Now I'm gonna keep going so there's some variance of the voicing. Because I want this to feel like it evolves a bit. Now I could stop right there and let it loop, but let's go a little bit higher. I'm gonna change up the voicing right here too. I'm gonna let that overdub. So there it is. Overdub, still recording any kind of trail that was happening. I'm gonna hit play. Now we have this track. So next logical thing is to start adding a bit more texture and character into things. So I'm gonna add more repeats and maybe some more grit and stuff with the delay. I could also start bringing in the microcosm as well for a bit more space and effect. I'm gonna turn up the cloud reverb as well. Let's go back to pulse width modulation. And then let's try it. Let's record that. Next track. So now I'm just trying to like feel out expression of the track. Let this overdub. You know, I actually screwed up. I should have had this line up by length. I didn't do that, so this is gonna slowly get out of time with those chords, which actually could be cool. You might actually want that, but for me, my intention was not to have that specifically. But let me just show using the microcosm now. So I have the microcosm set up to mosaic, so it's gonna add like little loops and little granular sounds to it. And also there's an additional reverb here as well. So I'm gonna put the reverb at noon and then slowly bring in the microcosm. So immediate space, trippy vibes, you know, really cool. So now I'm just improvising on top of this. Yeah. So if I want to end this, I have a couple options. I can start fading even further into the microcosm. Or I could start fading out the master track of the Aeros Loop Studio. So I can just slowly start fading this out and then bring in more microcosm. Bring up the reverb of the microcosm as well. By the way, it's all space. There we go. That's the gist. And yeah, again, I forgot to set it to length to synchronize. So it's a little off from what I would normally do. But the sound still worked, obviously. What's great about the Aeros Loop Studio is now I could take those tracks, put them on the SD card, and load them up into Ableton or something if I wanted to work with them further. Normally what I do, since I kind of like to just grab things in the moment, is track the output of the microcosm directly into Ableton, and then that's the track. If we want to do something further with it, like if Memes puts vocals on it, then that's a simple do. She does a pass on it, and then we just mix it together. Good to go. Got a nice little ambient track. So yeah, this is obviously a simple kind of like setup when you just look at what you're doing, but the sound that you get from using these spatial effects can be rich. You know, it's relatively complex and simple sounding at the same time. And I think that's kind of the magic of ambient music. You know, when you have this complexity, but at the same time a serene simplicity to it. It's like a forest. A forest can be serene and beautiful, but it's also super complex with all the leaves and bark and dirt and grass and woodland brush. You know, some things on the Aeros Loop Studio, though, that I do think make it a bit more difficult if you want to do complex arranging is when you mute elements of the track, they kind of drop out relatively quick. And they actually just did an update as well to add fade time, so you can fade in and fade out of tracks, which I think is fantastic. Like they've been updating this pedal since it released, and it's in version 4.2.4, I believe, as of the recording of this video. So really cool, awesome singular sound for supporting your hardware so much and continue to work out the bugs and add stuff to it. But in the context of ambient music, I do think it's a bit difficult to drop elements out because they will feel like they just suddenly sucked out on there. The Loop Studio doesn't have effects on there. Like you can't add reverbs and delays to individual tracks like some other loopers you can. So you are missing that type of spatial arrangement that you could do with other loopers, but the footprint of the Loop Studio is fantastic. Like it's just sitting on the desk right next to me, able to track whatever I want into it. Look at that. I still have over 7 minutes of recording time from this track. Again, like that's some decent amount of ambient record time that I already did. I would maybe add 1 or 2 possible other tracks to it that are relatively long, and I'd probably still have maybe like 4 minutes left of record time. So there's plenty of stereo record time in the Loop Studio to do these long ambient pieces. A couple months ago, we started doing the ambient looping with the microcosm, and the microcosm only has, I believe, 60 seconds of record time in its looper. Like you could do 60 seconds of a bass loop and then 60 seconds of an overdub, and that's what's available in the microcosm, and that worked out for me as well. I was able to get some decent ambient type of feels out of that. But with the Loop Studio, like you have a lot more creative freedom for how long you want these loops and how much time you want them to evolve. So you really could have like these 2-minute undulating passes of synth washes happen, and then add other stuff on there and just have like little sprinkles hit every like 30 seconds or something like that to really kind of paint an ambient picture. Also, if you've never recorded loops in free time, or like this ambient style where it's a wash and there's no specific timing to it, as a musician, it's incredibly freeing and like releases the brain in a way to like think outside the box. So when you do come back to something that's rhythmic, it kind of gives you a new look on things. So I'd say give it a shot. If you have the ability to set up something like this and just record something free time and just kind of like throw paint against the easel or the whatever, the canvas. That's what I'm trying to say. Throw paint against the canvas and have fun with it. Just make some abstract art. And I think it like helps your creative freedom to then do other things as well. Yeah. Anyways, that's the video. Thanks for watching. If you want to pick up the Loop Studio, we do have an affiliate link as well. So thank you, Singular Sound, for hooking us up with an affiliate account. You can, I believe there's a discount. I'll double check on that. You can get a discount if you use our affiliate link. It also helps support the channel as well. So if you are interested in the Loop Studio and you use our link, thank you very much. That's amazing. Also, shout out to our Patreon members as well. Thanks for supporting our channel. We really do appreciate it. And looking forward to making more content for you guys. You know, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff goes a long way as well on the YouTube algorithm platform. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Deuces.